Dry Tortugas National Park combines history with fun in the sun. It's a very strange combination, but actually works pretty well. It is situated in the middle of nowhere, about 70 miles west of Key West. It is actually very difficult to get to. You can either go by your private boat, which at 70 miles from Key West is actually not a very easy journey, or you can go by plane. It's about a 45-minute ride from Key West, and you land on the ocean on a floatplane, or as most people do, you take a ride on the Yankee Freedom. If you stay overnight, you are rewarded with quiet and solitude, especially after the boats leave. You get great night skies because it's totally dark, there's nothing around it. But you better be prepared because there's no facilities and no supplies, and sometimes because of the rough seas, the boats don't operate, so you can get stuck on the island for a day or more, waiting for the sea to come down and the boat to arrive. I'm on board the Yankee Freedom on the way 70-mile sea journey to the Dry Tortugas National Park. It's a beautiful day, and I'm inside the cabin. Outside is pretty breezy, so it's really going to be hard to hear in the microphone, but inside a lot of people just relaxing for the 2.5-hour journey out there, and it looks like a beautiful day. As we get closer, you start to see some small islands, and then all of a sudden on the horizon there is the fort. Fort Jefferson is one of the largest forts in the United States. It's actually the third largest, and it's got the most number of bricks of any fort in the United States. It was constructed originally because of its strategic location that can monitor the trade routes going from South Florida over to Louisiana. And while it was built, it never really saw battle because by the time it got finished, more advanced technologies were in place that basically made the fort not very useful. There were as many as 2,000 people that lived in Fort Jefferson during its peak. The place is called Dry Tortugas because the place is actually very dry, even though it's surrounded by water, because there's no source of freshwater supply on the island. We made it! Yes, we made it to Dry Tortugas National Park. We are on the Garden Key, and next to this gigantic fort that we have right in our background, and the lighthouse is up there, and it is a big fort, no question, in the middle of the ocean. Lots of birds flying around. Look at say hi.
Hi.
And it's beautiful outside, and we're walking around a little bit before we go on this tour. And you can see where the moat is protecting the fort, and all the birds flying up there. It's just magnificent out here. The water is really, really clear. We're gonna go snorkeling a little later this afternoon. When you arrive at the fort, the National Park Service will give guided tours on the fort, and it's very fascinating. Listen to all the history surrounding this fort. So you get a nice dose of history as part of the journey out here to Fort Jefferson. But there's the other half of the story. It is beautiful, pristine beaches, really, really clear water, and a lot of good snorkeling here at Dry Tortugas. The snorkeling is wonderful here. There are lots of walls, there's lots of pylons, and all of those things form a nice habitat for the fish and a good place for the corals to grow. Even though there were probably 150 people that came off the boat and that came by plane, the place is not crowded at all. Does not feel crowded, and people just kind of spread out all over Garden Key, which is where the fort is. We had a lot of fun just hanging out by the beach and snorkeling all around. The currents can be a little strong, so you got to be a little careful that you don't stray too far from shore, but the fish was very, very good to see. Dry Tortugas combines a nice dose of history with a nice day of beaches and snorkeling. It is actually a very, very nice trip, actually much better than I expected. If you decide to come, you should try to book early because the Yankee Freedom can get sold out. But you also have to be prepared for a little flexibility because on any given day, the seas can be rough. You may not want to go out, or the trip might be canceled because of high waves. Be prepared. We are on our way to visit all the national parks in the United States. Check out my blog in the description box below. Subscribe to this channel and give it a thumbs up if you like it.